paintings by definition are just shapes on a canvas. And the more you see like that, and the more you design those shapes, the more dramatically engaging your paintings will be. Hi, Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. Recently I was in a garden and I caught my attention is this pathway with these cypresses, these big beautiful verticals, and I knew there was the bones of a structure for a good painting right there. So I'm going to show you several photographs of how I was kind of looking at that whole process. This is what I saw when I first encountered it. And I could just tell that there was horizontals and verticals here that just seemed to have such a rich, beautiful structure, but it was just blasted in light, you know. So I came back later in the afternoon, early afternoon, and I could see it was getting better. There's some really interesting shapes now, and the shadows are starting to help structure that. And then I came back in the late afternoon, and now a lot of the things were silhouetted, and there's a really nice interplay of shadows with light. I took some photographs the following morning, first thing, and I was starting to get some sunlight on the background there, and then a little bit later in the morning. And then I decided that this was the one I was going to use. I just liked the big shadow shapes and the sort of halos of light around things, and that's the way I cropped it. And just to sort of show you, I mean, the amount of verticals here, just like this, and the horizontals. I mean, it's so densely structured, right? And then there's a diagonal coming in here and here, I suppose, as well. But just very densely structured bones of a good composition. So you might look at the first photograph and say, boy, that really didn't look like anything. But it was more that I was seeing the bones of the structure, and I knew that at different times of the day, it could be engaging. It wouldn't necessarily be, but worth coming back to have a look. So I think that seeing that process is perhaps interesting. So right now, I'm on day 11 of a 30-day challenge with the students. I'm doing it myself with the students from the drawing course. And each day we're just looking at small compositional studies in terms of structure and design. And to sort of try to come to grips with what it is really in the world that grabs our attention and that we want to make paintings of it. So I did a drawing of this particular image. Here it is. And next month in the May YouTube, I'm thinking to show you all 30 drawings and what was my thinking that attracted me to each one. So we've talked about the structure behind the painting, but now as I'm doing the painting itself, just watch as I paint this and see that I'm just painting shapes. I'm attentive to the edges between the shapes, but it's just shape by shape by shape. And the illusion arises out of that. I mean, you can say that, no, you're painting trees and bushes, but they're just shapes. And the illusion kind of comes as a byproduct of getting the shape right, the value, the color, the edges, and getting them accurate. So let's have a look at that. As I was saying in the introduction, I just want you to notice how really I'm just painting the shapes. Now this is a dark green, it's phthalo green, alizarin, chrome oxide green, probably a little bit of ultramarine blue, but it's still a green. And there's just the shapes, there's a hit of dark there just to distinguish between those two together, those two cypresses together, and then you can see how much lighter this shadowed side is. But again, it's just a shape, the dark side of this particular shape. Same thing there. It's lighter, a little warmer perhaps than the cypress greens behind it, but the shadow shape. And so I'm mainly filling in all the shadows. Here's the very simple tree shapes in behind. I didn't get into all little branches and leaves and so on like that. I just wanted simple shapes back there that aren't going to attract too much attention. And then the sky was just really one color. It's all sort of up quite high, so I'm not even bothering to gradate it particularly. But just the shapes, right? And then here I'm just putting in just a couple of sky holes to kind of say, oh, I see, that's a tree back there. And then the shadow side, on the pavement here is quite a bit bluer than this, whatever this is, the wall is warmer and lighter. So I'm putting all of those in. You'll see I have to adjust this color later to get it a little darker, to get it to work the way I want. But that whole family is sort of coming in as a bunch of warmer grays, and then the big mass of this hedge over. And you see there's all kinds of light and little flowers and all kinds of things. Gone. For me, this whole thing is in shadow with one, you'll see one little strip of sunlight coming down through the middle of it. So this is the other half, all big shadow mass. I do not get into all the little flicky marks there because, well, I just don't think it's worth it, really. I mean, it has, the painting has more strength by just painting these big, simple shapes and let that do the work. Sign up for our free monthly themed videos on mastering composition. 4 videos on one theme. And when you sign up, you'll also receive free this foundational video on composition. Click on the link above or go to ianroberts.com. Now back to the video. And there's a real dark down under the bottom where the light isn't getting in underneath the shadow, underneath the big hedge. And then you'll see that this color is the dirt color, and it's warmer. It's still very cool, and it's dark, but it's a warmer color than, say, the hedge beside it. There's the shadow side lighter than the big hedge, the shadow side of that bush. And then a little line of shadow just to kind of distinguish the fact that it curls underneath there. And then now I'm going to start painting some of this sunlight in here. It's not really bright. I want to have the brightest colors down further. See, like here, that I want to start grabbing our attention, not further up the hedge closer to us. Now I have to adjust. You'll see the shape there. I've brought it over, angled it over too far, and it looks kind of awkward, and I adjust that. But there you see, I scraped that paint away and just cleaned that edge up so it was a little bit more vertical. But that I want you to look at. Right now I've put sort of some sunlit aspects, just shapes though, right? Just thin little shapes on the lit side of the cypress. So then again, we want that good hit of sunlight hitting that hedge in back there. And then you see here I'm darkening the wall so I can really get a good strong sense of sunlight hitting that wall, and then it's a little wide, so I do a dark mark just to sort of make it really crisp. Get a few hits of sunlight on the wall up front. Just a couple of marks of sunlit bush, light, different green than the others, cooler, but still sunlit. And okay, there's the sunlit bush, and there's the sunlit side of that bush. And then I'm getting the shadow of that one in. And then I think now I put the sunlight in, and there we get that shape, right? And then I put 2 darks in there just to sort of establish the cypress, sort of get it pop a little bit. It doesn't really need it. We know it's there. And then again, another sunlit bush. The big second big hedge back there just needs to sort of be clarified and cleaned up a little bit. And that's the top side of the closer hedge. We can just sort of see the light. You know, it's not getting sunlit, it's still in shadow. And then I sort of put the shadow side of that shape back there, and then a real shape for the lit side, and then I adjust it a bit, and there's just adjusting that hedge a little bit so it's not quite such a strong edge. Just run a little bit of something up there just to kind of break up that big form. A couple of darks in there just to kind of define the 2 hedges, one in front of the other. And messing around there a little bit with some edges. And then that cypress was kind of a wacky shape, and there's pretty much the finished painting. And you can still see very much the structure that originally caught my attention. Yes, the lighting need to be adjusted, and it need to sort of have better definition of forms and drama. But the original structure that caught my mind, you can still see that there as the thing that led me to it. And then I just painted it in shape by shape. I hope you found that helpful. So the next video will be Tuesday, July 2nd. I'll see you then. Bye for now.